The last chapter records the instructions that Yahweh gave Moshe for the atonement of a woman having given birth to a son or to a daughter. Wayikra, Leviticus chapter 13. And Yahweh spoke to Moshe and to Aaron, saying,
When a man shall have in the skin of his flesh a rising or a scab or a bright spot, and it become in the skin of his flesh the plague of leprosy, then he shall be brought to Aaron the priest, or to one of his sons the priests. And the priest shall look on the plague in the skin of the flesh, and if the hair in the plague be turned white, and the appearance of the plague be deeper than the skin of his flesh, it is the plague of leprosy, and the priest shall look on him, and pronounce him unclean. And if the bright spot be white in the skin of his flesh, and the appearance thereof be not deeper than the skin, and the hair thereof be not turned white, then the priest shall shut up him that hath the plague 7 days. And the priest shall look on him the 7th day, and behold, if in his eyes the plague be at a stay, and the plague be not spread in the skin, then the priest shall shut him up 7 days more. And the priest shall look on him again the 7th day, and behold, if the plague be dim, and the plague be not spread in the skin, then the priest shall pronounce him clean. It is a scab, and he shall wash his clothes and be clean. But if the scab spread abroad in the skin, after when he hath shown himself to the priest for his cleansing, he shall show himself to the priest again. And the priest shall look, and behold, if the scab be spread in the skin, then the priest shall pronounce him unclean. It is leprosy. When the plague of leprosy is in a man, then he shall be brought to the priest, and the priest shall look, and behold, if there be a white rising in the skin, and it have turned the hair white, and inflammation of living flesh be in the rising. It is an old leprosy in the skin of his flesh, and the priest shall pronounce him unclean. He shall not shut him up, for he is unclean. And if the leprosy break out abroad in the skin, and the leprosy cover all the skin of him that hath the plague, from his head even to his feet, as far as appeareth to the priest, then the priest shall look, and behold, if the leprosy have covered all his flesh, he shall pronounce him clean that hath the plague. It is all turned white. He is clean. But whensoever raw flesh appeareth in him, he shall be unclean. And the priest shall look on the raw flesh, and pronounce him unclean. The raw flesh is unclean. It is leprosy. Or if the raw flesh turn again, and be changed to white, then he shall come to the priest, and the priest shall look on him, and behold, if the plague be turned into white, then the priest shall pronounce him clean that hath the plague. He is clean. And when the flesh hath in the skin thereof a boil, and it is healed, and in the place of the boil there is a white rising, or a bright spot, reddish white, then it shall be showed to the priest, and the priest shall look, and behold, if the appearance thereof be lower than the skin, and the hair thereof be turned white, then the priest shall pronounce him unclean. It is the plague of leprosy. It hath broken out in the boil. But if the priest look on it, and behold, there be no white hairs therein, and if it be not lower than the skin, but be dim, then the priest shall shut him up 7 days. And if it spread abroad in the skin, then the priest shall pronounce him unclean. It is a plague. But if the bright spot stay in its place, and be not spread, it is the scar of the boil, and the priest shall pronounce him clean. Or when the flesh hath in the skin thereof a burning by fire, and the inflammation of the burn become a bright spot, reddish white or white, then the priest shall look upon it, and behold, if the hair in the bright spot be turned white, and the appearance thereof be deeper than the skin, it is leprosy. It hath broken out in the burning, and the priest shall pronounce him unclean. It is the plague of leprosy. But if the priest look on it, and behold, there be no white hair in the bright spot, and it be no lower than the skin, but be dim, then the priest shall shut him up 7 days. And the priest shall look upon him the 7th day. If it spread abroad in the skin, then the priest shall pronounce him unclean. It is the plague of leprosy. And if the bright spot stay in its place, and be not spread in the skin, but be dim, it is the rising of the burning, and the priest shall pronounce him clean, for it is the scar of the burning. And when a man or woman hath a plague upon the head or upon the beard, then the priest shall look on the plague, and behold, if the appearance thereof be deeper than the skin, and there be in it yellow thin hair, then the priest shall pronounce him unclean. It is a scall. It is leprosy of the head or of the beard. And if the priest look on the plague of the scall, and behold, the appearance thereof be not deeper than the skin, and there be no black hair in it, then the priest shall shut up him that hath the plague of the scall 7 days. And in the 7th day the priest shall look on the plague, and behold, if the scall be not spread, and there be in it no yellow hair, and the appearance of the scall be not deeper than the skin, then he shall be shaven, but the scall shall he not shave. And the priest shall shut up him that hath the scall 7 days more. And in the 7th day the priest shall look on the scall, and behold, if the scall be not spread in the skin, and the appearance thereof be not deeper than the skin, then the priest shall pronounce him clean, and he shall wash his clothes and be clean. But if the scall spread abroad in the skin after his cleansing, then the priest shall look on him, and behold, if the scall be spread in the skin, The priest shall not seek for the yellow hair, he is unclean. But if in his eyes the skull be at a stay, and black hair be grown up therein, the skull is healed, he is clean, and the priest shall pronounce him clean. And when a man or a woman hath in the skin of the flesh bright spots, even white bright spots, then the priest shall look, and behold, if the bright spots in the skin of their flesh be of a dull white, it is a tetter, it hath broken out in the skin, he is clean. And if a man's hair be fallen off his head, he is bald, yet is he clean. And if his hair be fallen off from the front part of his head, he is forehead bald, yet is he clean. But if there be in the bald head or the bald forehead a reddish white plague, it is leprosy breaking out in his bald head or his bald forehead. Then the priest shall look upon him, and behold, if the rising of the plague be reddish white in his bald head or in his bald forehead, as the appearance of leprosy in the skin of the flesh, he is a leprous man, he is unclean. The priest shall surely pronounce him unclean. His plague is in his head. And the leper in whom the plague is, his clothes shall be torn, and his head shall be loosed, and he shall cover his upper lip, and shall cry, Unclean, unclean. All the days wherein the plague is in him, he shall be unclean. He is unclean. He shall dwell alone. Outside the camp shall his dwelling be. The garment also that the plague of leprosy is in, whether it be a woolen garment or a linen garment, whether it be in warp or woof, of linen or of woolen, whether in a skin or in anything made of skin. If the plague be greenish or reddish in the garment, or in the skin, or in the warp, or in the woof, or in anything of skin, it is the plague of leprosy, and shall be showed to the priest. And the priest shall look upon the plague, and shut up that which hath the plague 7 days. And he shall look on the plague on the 7th day. If the plague be spread in the garment, either in the warp, or in the woof, or in the skin, whatever service skin is used for, the plague is a fretting leprosy, it is unclean. And he shall burn the garment, whether the warp or the woof, in woolen or in linen, or anything of skin, wherein the plague is. For it is a fretting leprosy, it shall be burnt in the fire. And if the priest shall look, and behold, the plague be not spread in the garment, either in the warp, or in the woof, or in anything of skin, then the priest shall command that they wash the thing wherein the plague is, and he shall shut it up 7 days more. And the priest shall look after when the plague is washed, and behold, if the plague have not changed its color, and the plague be not spread, it is unclean. Thou shalt burn it in the fire. It is a fret, whether the bareness be within or without. And if the priest look, and behold, the plague be dim after the washing thereof. Then he shall tear it out of the garment, or out of the skin, or out of the warp, or out of the woof. And if it appear still in the garment, either in the warp, or in the woof, or in anything of skin, it is breaking out. Thou shalt burn that wherein the plague is with fire. And the garment, either the warp or the woof, or whatsoever thing of skin it be, which thou shalt wash, if the plague be departed from them, then it shall be washed the second time, and shall be clean. This is the law of the plague of leprosy in a garment of woolen or linen, either in the warp or the woof, or anything of skin, to pronounce it clean, or to pronounce it unclean.